Hello, boxing fans around the world, Talking Fight Nation. Welcome to another episode of Neil the Deal featuring Neil the Deal himself. We've just finished a wonderful series on fighters in the Philippines, and we're moving on to fighters in Mexico. But before we get to all those great fighters out of Mexico, I understand you've got a kind of a blend for us tonight, a kind of an in-between segment, a chap we're all familiar with, and someone who is a great fighter, and we're looking forward to seeing more of his fights in the very near future.
Hey, good evening, Graham. Yes, you're exactly right. That's exactly what we're going to do this evening. How you doing, guys? Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for all the great comments last night about the show. It was fantastic. I'm always impressed by everybody's enthusiasm. So I'm just trying to let you guys know there are bigger and better things coming every day. So keep coming out. Check us out, talkandfight.com, Neil the Deal Show. And yes, Graham, we are going to be talking about some Mexican fighters in the next few days. And yes, I wanted to talk about this individual tonight because he's relevant. He's fighting in the next month, and I think that his career needs to be recognized. He's had a fantastic career. So we're going to talk a little bit about him tonight, and his name is Andy Ruiz Jr. Andy Ruiz Jr. All right. He was born Andres Ponce Ruiz Jr. All right. And his nickname, Graham, which is a great nickname. I love all the nicknames are awesome. That's what I think. Anyways, Neil the Deal, it's a nickname. They just go on and on and on and on. Andy's nickname is the Destroyer. The Destroyer. Well, I watched a whack load of his fights, and yeah, it's a pretty good nickname. This guy is a destroyer. He's like 260 some odd pounds, Graham. Have you ever seen him fight, Andy Ruiz Jr.?
Yeah. I know.
He's a behemoth of a man. Like, this is a big man. And I don't know what to tell you after that. We're going to go through all his stats, all the stuff that he's been up to, what he's doing, and his future stuff that's coming up real close. But, man, you don't get much bigger in the heavyweight division than 260 pounds, really. Yeah. Wow, that's a big man. So let's just go through a little bit about Andy himself. He was born September 11th, 1989. That makes him 31 years old. He's from Imperial Valley, California, USA, and of Mexican descent. So that's why we're talking about him tonight, because he's the one guy that I've looked out. There's a lot of them, like Teofimo Lopez. These guys, they are of Mexican descent, but they're now residents or born in the United States. So, but they do give a lot of credit to their heritage, which I really like, And they always, like Mr. Ruiz himself, has a dual citizenship, right? He's Mexican and American. So it's interesting how these guys feel for both their countries, and they fight for both of them as hard as they can. So we'll talk a little bit more about him here. His career started in 2009 to present. So he's had a pretty long career already, Graham, That would be like 12 years. So he started when he was 19, basically as a pro. The fights that I've seen him in, for a heavyweight boxer of his size, he has amazing hand speed, great hand speed. I've seen him knock guys out like you would think he's a middleweight with that kind of hand speed, But at that size, you don't find it very often. He also he runs a really hard pace during the fight. The hard pace is amazing, and he's very aggressive. As a man of that size, he muscles guys out and he takes them out. He throws bombs. He takes bombs. He can take them and he can throw them. So, I'm looking at him as being one of the guys that's going to, in the next year or so, guaranteed, is going to be like vying for the big title, the big one. I mean, he has already been the big title holder. We're going to go over that, but he's coming back with a vengeance, and he wants another shot at the big show. So there's a bunch of stuff that was really interesting about him, Graham. he's the first Mexican boxer ever to win the heavyweight championship of the world.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So the very first Mexican heavyweight champ of the world, that's very impressive right there. And when he won the championship, he was the unified heavyweight champion of the world, actually, and which includes the WBA, IBF, WBO, and the IBO titles. And he won those in 2019. So very recent, Graham. He was the unified heavyweight champion of the world. He beat
Anthony
Mr.
Joshua.
I'm sorry.
Anthony Joshua.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But then approximately, what was it, 6 months later in the rematch, he lost the titles back to Joshua. So it was a
Right.
very short-lived title reign. But I honestly, truly believe that he has the skill, he has the dedication, he has the perseverance, he has the ring savvy, he has the hard pace, the aggression, the punching power for sure. That he's one to look out for. So
Yeah,
guys, yeah, no doubt. He's definitely in the mix, right? In the heavyweight division. So
I'm pretty sure he's used this pandemic period to actually really buff up. I mean, the guy looks strong now. I mean, that's the one thing I've noticed. He's one of these guys to look out for. Somewhat of a sleeping giant, if you ask me. I know there's a lot of other guys yapping in the heavyweight division, but here's a guy we got to look out for.
Yeah, that's correct, Graham. He's actually been training really hard. He's been trying to kind of cut some weight, just to lean down a bit. I don't know, maybe 10, 20 pounds. But I believe he's been doing that, so that when he comes out in April this year, we're going to talk about that. He's going to look really good. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people on because of his hand speed. That's the one thing with fighters that big, it's hand speed that bigger fighters have a problem with, right? So so he's really got hand speed, which is something that's going to really do him benefit, like going forward with his career. So let's talk a little bit about his amateur career, Graham, because he had a fantastic amateur career. He had a total of 110 fights, of which he won 105 of them, and he only had 5 losses, right? So he won over 100 amateur fights. And as a child, he was actually a really good athlete for his size, Graham. He was a bigger guy, a bigger kid, I guess you would call it. But he really liked to play baseball. I understand he really liked baseball as a child. Like myself, I love baseball. Baseball and hockey were basically my sports.
Yeah.
So, but his dad, like a lot of the boxers, his dad got him into boxing, and it was really because his grandfather, his dad's dad, owned a gym in Mexico. All right. And so his dad learned from his dad, and he taught his son. So there you go. So it's kind of a family tradition, I guess, grandfather to father to son, boxing in the family. And Andy's doing like phenomenal, as we can see with his career. And he started very young. I mean, he started at like age 7. He started fighting, and which is a lot of these guys, Graham. You notice they start very young. It's just like I guess it's with any sport. You need to start things up a little young and just go with it, get better with it, train. And if you have the backing of your family and your friends and stuff, then it makes it a lot easier. So it's good to see that the kids start young and then they progress and progress and progress. That really makes me happy. It shows dedication. It shows perseverance. It shows a lot of things. So he won as a child 2 Mexican national junior Olympic titles, gold medals. So even as a child, he was winning gold medals for his country. And he got that name. It's funny too. Remember we were saying his nickname was the Destroyer?
Yep.
Well, he got that nickname from his grandfather and his father because apparently when he was a child, he loved to destroy stuff. I guess he was just running around the house, busting and breaking everything and causing whatever kind of, he was just destroying stuff. So it was kind of, how do we say, a fitting name, I guess. His parents called him the Destroyer. So that's, here we go, right? He's been destroying guys in the ring for years now. And so it fits. So we'll go into his pro totals. He's had 35 fights, all right, total fights. He's won 33 fights, Graham. 22 by KO, guys. 22 by KO out of 33, out of 35, and he has the 2 losses. So he only has 2 losses out of 35 fights. Like I said, he's really at the top of his game now. You know, everybody, he can't win them all, as we always say, right? So he's learned over the years, and I think he's right on the cusp of being. He's in the mix. I mean, even in the past, Tyson Fury, he wanted to fight Fury, he wanted to fight Wilder, but they just ducked him. So there must be something about him that those guys are a little concerned about, and that's why I kind of was like, wow, okay, maybe there's something up here with Mr. Ruiz, and there definitely is. He's doing the job every fight, and he's one fight away, I think, from challenging either one of the heavyweight title holders for the belt. You know what I mean? If he wins this next fight, he's probably next in line. So he's ranked pretty high right now. He's ranked as the 4th best heavyweight in the world. So he's in the top 5. So he's got a great shot. There's no doubt about it. And like you said, Graham, and we know he's been training really hard, slimming down, getting a little more leaner, a little more meaner. And this should be interesting in the next month to watch this fight. So, guys, remember, I'm going to give you the date and who he's fighting momentarily, and hopefully you guys can watch it. I'm sure it's going to be super entertaining. He's always an entertainer, Andy Ruiz Jr. So, and in the heavyweight division, we all like heavyweights. Who doesn't like watching the heavyweights, eh, Graham? They're always fun to watch, right? So he's been trained by a guy too. I've heard of his name, but he's one of those guys that kind of, he's under the radar. His name is Abel Sanchez. Like I know of him, and he's like a world renowned trainer. So he's got a lot of guys behind him, like his team and stuff are the best of the best in the world. Like Abel Sanchez, I checked him. He's trained numbers and numbers and numbers of world champion fighters. So he's definitely he's got that going for him for sure. He's also he had won titles before, eh, Graham? Like I said, we had talked about the unified world heavyweight championship titles that he won, but he also won in 2013 he won the WBO Intercontinental Heavyweight title. He also won in 2013 the WBC NABF World Heavyweight Championship title. And then he did win the unified WBA, IBF, WBO, IBO Heavyweight Championship of the world. So he's tasted success, if you know what I mean, Graham. And he's right there. He's not going anywhere. So I'm basically thinking, you know, one fight away and this guy could be the heavyweight champion of the world. He's that close. So I'm really liking him. The two fights that I watched that were really, really good, obviously, were the 2 fights against Joshua, right? 1 and 2. One was June 1st, 2019. The other one was December 7th, 2019. So they're both in the same year, but they were both great fights. Like if you watch them both, because I think he's come into his own now, Graham, from what I see. He's got enough fights in his career under his belt, and now he's got to the point where he's right at the top of his game. So the upcoming fight, Graham, it's coming up. April. This is it, guys. Put this on your calendar. April 24th, 2021, and he will be fighting Chris Arreola. Now, Chris Arreola is no pushover by any means. He was ranked #1 in the world at times. He's fought for world titles. He fought Klitschko. He's a serious fighter. He's got a lot of knockouts. So this should be a barn burner, Graham. This should be a good one. And the big boys are swinging the leather. You know what I mean?
Looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really really good fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think that again he's had a fantastic career to this date, and it's only going to get better for him. And he's one of my look out for this heavyweight guy. You know, look out for him because he could be a sleeper. You know, you got the Wilders, you got the Furies, you got these other guys, but he could be the one that, you know, he's one punch away from being the heavyweight champion of the world. So good for you. That's awesome. And so you got any other things to say, Graham, about him? Do you know anything else about him?
Yeah, no, but you know what I kind of liken him to? I kind of liken him to in that golden era of the heavyweights, of the Muhammad Ali's, the Joe Frazier's, George Foreman's, Larry Holmes. You always had that circle of great fights that were coming up, and you really never knew who's gonna win, and so you stay tuned. And I think then we went to the Mike Tyson kind of era where he did kind of dominate a decade, quite frankly. But you know, you still had your Holyfields, you still had your contenders out there, and you still had your Buster Douglases. And I think this is where Ruiz fits in. I think he could be the spoiler, as you've said. I mean, he has taken his time during this pandemic to trim up. I mean, he looks good. And given those hands, he's going to give Joshua, he's going to Tyson Fury, he's going to give these boys, I think, a run for their money. Yeah, they can do all the yapping over in England, Battle of Britain, all that kind of stuff, and the match room, and all these guys can iron out all the details as they see fit. But I think this Ruiz chap is the guy to look out for. He's one, as you said, one punch away from ruining some guy's fight night and taking that heavyweight championship. I think so too. I agree. I think he's the guy. He's the spoiler.
Yeah, exactly, Graham. I agree. Like you just said, 100%. He could be the spoiler. Everybody seems to be looking at other guys. I'm looking at this guy. I'm actually looking at this guy. He could surprise everybody. So keep your eye on him. I'm telling you, he's like I say, he's ranked in the top 5 in the world. So there's no doubt that he's got as good a shot as anybody. And if he wins this next fight against Chris Arreola, I believe that he will get that shot at the title. The next fight will be a title fight because basically he'll have nobody else to fight, right? I mean, Arreola's ranked, what, 7th or 8th in the world? But when you get up in the top 10, once you've fought all those guys, the only guys you can fight are the guys who own the title. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking at liking what we see with Mr. Ruiz. And you guys out there in Talkin' Fight Land, Neil the Deal Land, keep your eyes peeled for Mr. Ruiz on April 24th of this year when he's fighting Chris Arreola. And I'll tell you, if he takes him down real quick, he'll be going for a title fight in the next one. That's my prediction, anyways.
I agree, and thanks very much for that. I appreciate it. It's a great insight, great update. I know there's been a lot of criticism of Ruiz, but it's short-sighted, ill-founded, and I think he's one to watch without a doubt in the heavyweight circles right now. And he'll prove it in April, and he'll go on, I think, to contend for a championship belt in this year, without a doubt. I'm confident. So
yeah, well, let's cheer for Andy. Andy, thanks a lot for everything. If you're out there watching or anybody's who knows Andy or anything, we're cheering for Andy. Honestly, I'm looking forward to the fight. I'm really looking forward to it. So hopefully you guys are too. Thanks for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it, Graham. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow night. It is Friday, so that will be 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Correct.
All right, cool. And we're going to continue a little deeper into the Mexican fighter prospects, up and comers, and hopefully you guys will all be there. And we'll see you then. Have a good evening. Take care. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.